The last time I bought a drawing tool was 2 years ago. It was the summer of 2023. I was on vacation, I was in a good mood, and I bought something. I bought this, a highlighter. That was 2 years ago. Suffice to say, I'm pretty happy with what I got. I have everything I need. No, scratch that. I have everything I want. And I don't feel the need to add anything to my already substantial collection of tools. But once in a while, you come across a product that solves a problem you didn't even know you had. You mean all this time I was straining pasta like a fool? Of course I want a colander that hangs over my kitchen sink. What am I, a barbarian? Introducing the Pilot Iro-utsushi, a pen that solved a problem I didn't even know I had. On the channel, there are 3 criteria that have to be met in order to justify making a review about something. There has to be something interesting about it. And beyond that, it has to have larger implications. It should say something about our tools and how we use them. And lastly, it has to be something I've used for long enough and I'm comfortable having an opinion on it. And the first two are kind of subjective, but the last one, not so much. Now, I've only been using the Iro-utsushi for a week. But I've also been using it for 2 years now. The Iro-utsushi is a dip pen made by Pilot. First of all, I had no idea Pilot made dip pens, but it's so much more interesting than that. Or so much less interesting, I should say. Pilot made their fountain pen nibs into a dip pen. A dip pen is basically what it sounds like. There's no ink in it, so you have to dip it into a pot of ink and write, like the old days. Now, usually dip pen nibs are flexible, so you get varying line widths depending on how hard you press. They're also stamped out of really thin metal to get that flex, and usually they're pretty fine. Fine as in fine pointed, not 2003 Cannes Film Festival Nicole Kidman fine. Look it up. A fountain pen nib, while looking very similar, is different on a few fundamental levels. To make them more durable, fountain pen nibs are usually made from a thicker stainless steel. That means there's little to no flex in the nib, and the lines are usually a little bit thicker than dip pen nibs. Ironically, Pilot is one of the few manufacturers that make fountain pen nibs thin enough to rival dip pens, but still, they don't flex. They're also usually tipped with a harder material like iridium so that the tip doesn't wear down as easily. The tips are usually rounded too, so the experience of writing with a fountain pen tends to be a lot smoother. Sometimes dip pen nibs can be so sharp that they end up digging into the surface of the paper, and it creates a lot of friction, or as we like to call it, feedback. One isn't necessarily better than the other, they're just different. So what I mean when I say I've been using the Iro-utsushi for 2 years now, even though I've only had it for a week. Well, the nib on this pen is the same nib that you'll find on a lot of the fountain pens that Pilot makes, such as the Kakuno and the Metropolitan, 2 of their most popular pens. So what Pilot did was essentially give you the experience of writing with a fountain pen in the form of a dip pen. So they took like an existing thing that they had in their factory and just stuck it on the end of a plastic stick. And I think that's pretty cool. So a review of this pen is actually pretty straightforward. When it comes to fountain pens, if you think about it, 80% of it is in the nib. That's the experience of writing with a pen. How flexible it is, the line quality, how well the ink flows, whether it skips or not, the tactility of the sensation of drawing with it, that's all in the nib. The other 10% is maybe its ink storage system, how much ink it holds, what system it uses, and its airtightness. The last 10% is basically just the rest of the body, which is a matter of ergonomics, its weight, its balance, and how it feels in the hand, and of course the aesthetics of it. The nib is by far the most important part. So a review of the Iro-utsushi as a drawing tool is very much the same review as any other Pilot fountain pen with the same nib, be it the Metropolitan or the Kakuno or the Explorer or the Prera, which is good. The Iro-utsushi comes in 2 sizes, medium and fine. And the drawing experience is pretty much what you'd expect out of them. These nibs remain highly lauded in the fountain pen community as nibs that punch well above their price point. They're reliable and smooth. I've had the long-standing opinion that the Kakuno is one of the best fountain pens out there for artists at any price point because of its great nib and ergonomics. And it's no different here with the Iro-utsushi. Now you might be thinking, okay, the Iro-utsushi is a great entry point for someone who doesn't have a Kakuno yet and wants to try it out for themselves. For the sake of brevity, I'm just gonna classify all the pens that have this nib as Kakunos, but if that's the case, I wanna just buy the Kakuno instead. Strangely, the Iro-utsushi is more expensive than a Kakuno, and in most cases, the Kakuno is objectively superior to the Iro-utsushi in every way. The convenience, the price, I mean, this is literally a nib on a stick. So if that's not a good reason to buy the Iro-utsushi, what is? If you're wondering what the Iro-utsushi is really good for, it's for solving a specific problem. Much like today's video partner, NordVPN. Scammers can easily pose as someone you trust, like your bank, a friend, or even a popular online service, and trick you into entering your banking details on a fake website. That's called phishing. They often design fake websites to mimic legitimate ones, offering too good to be true deals on items. Oftentimes, you won't even know you've been a victim of a scam until you find a suspicious transaction on your credit card. And by then, it's too late. Regular VPNs don't protect you from these scams, but NordVPN's Threat Protection Pro does. Simply turn on Threat Protection Pro and it will warn you if you're about to enter a fraudulent site, keeping your online shopping safe and secure. If you care about privacy and security, especially when you're hopping online to research pens or anything else, it's worth considering a service like NordVPN. With NordVPN, your data stays private, your browsing remains secure, and you can access content from anywhere around the globe with ease. And here's the best part, the exclusive creator deal is available just for you. If you sign up using the link nordvpn.com/chromamoma for a 2-year plan, you get an extra 4 months on top of your subscription. That's even more security and peace of mind for less. Plus, NordVPN comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So whether you're buying pens online or just browsing the web, NordVPN keeps you covered. That's nordvpn.com/chromamoma. Fountain pens need fountain pen inks. Now, if you use any other kind of ink, like India ink for example, you'll clog the feed and wreck your pen. It's pretty easy to tell fountain pen inks apart because they usually say fountain pen safe on the label, but the Iro-utsushi doesn't have that problem. So if you're a person who wants to use fountain pens with non-fountain pen safe inks, boy, do I have something for you. But personally, I don't have that problem because most of the inks I buy are fountain pen safe anyways. There's such a wide variety of types and colors of fountain pen inks that you're not really limited in any significant way. So if you're buying fountain pen inks, just get a fountain pen. What the Iro-utsushi is good for though is this. If you're someone who is already into dip pens and you already have a substantial collection of inks that aren't fountain pen safe and you want to get into fountain pens, but it feels kind of weird to have to rebuy all the colors you already have just so you can use it in a fountain pen, well, the Iro-utsushi gets you part of the way there. It's a nice in-between measure for having the experience of drawing with a fountain pen without being limited by the inks you already have. Do you have art supplies you rarely use but are must-haves in your collection? Like, it's not going in your item bar, and you're not wasting a hotkey on something you break out once every couple of months, but it's still an essential part of your arsenal. I have inks like that. For one reason or another, they don't get used very often. Sometimes they're too faint or too unusual, or just a color that I don't really like that much. These are the niche, weird colors that aren't appropriate for everyday use, unlike black or blue ink. I've had this pen inked up with pink ink for about 2 months now. I know, I thought it cute, you know, pink pen, pink ink. And I'm barely halfway through this. I don't have that many pens that I can just dedicate filling up one with something that I use once in a blue moon. Besides, I think this is dried up now, so I got that going for me. The Iro-utsushi is great for situations like this because it's not burdened with an ink reservoir. You want to take out that ink you never use for a quick spin? You got it. You can always treat your fountain pen like a dip pen and dip it into the ink without filling it up, but it just seems quite counterintuitive to me. Plus, the cleanup is going to be annoying too. That's where the hassle-free nature of the Iro-utsushi comes in. Its simplicity becomes its strength. Every time you change out the ink in a fountain pen, a little bit of it gets wasted. It's just inevitable. Some of it gets stuck in the cartridge, some of it gets stuck in the feed, or it dries out on the nib. Naturally, if you have ink that's expensive, rare, or worse, discontinued, Pilot, please bring back my favorite ink. You want to waste as little of it as possible. Of course, with a dip pen, you're still going to lose a little bit of that ink. Not 100% of it is going to make it down onto the page, but that's just less surface area for the ink to get caught up in. So if you have just like a little bit of ink left at the bottom of your bottle and you just want to get the most out of that, well, you have to use a dip pen. Fountain pens just won't cut it. But there you have it, that's the Pilot Iro-utsushi. It really comes down to 2 things. If you're someone who's already into fountain pens, well, should you get one? I don't think so, unless you truly experience the problems we've talked about earlier. It's not really an upgrade to any of the Pilot fountain pens. And if you want to try out a fountain pen, well, just
buy a fountain pen. But if you're someone who isn't into fountain pens yet, but you own a bunch of inks that aren't fountain pen safe, well, this might be a nice thing to try out without breaking the bank by having to rebuy all these inks that are fountain pen safe. Let me be clear, the problems we've talked about are truly terribly nitpicky, because that's where I am in my stage of collecting. I'm not enticed by something just because it's novel. I care about making art, not buying art supplies. The Kakuno is 12 years now, and we've gotten to the point where these things are basically perfect. Like, how do you make this better at the same price point? It's like a big lighter. So companies are constantly trying to add new SKUs, a new gimmick or something or another to try to entice you to buy their products, because God knows you don't need anything better than a Kakuno.
The Iro-utsushi isn't a game changer. It's just a thoughtful variation on the classic, and that's what I appreciate about it. It's not about the latest shiny thing. It's about finding something that actually fits your needs, even if those needs are as small and nitpicky as wanting to use pink ink every now and then. And sometimes, that's really all you need. So is it a must-buy? No, but if you're the kind of person who's constantly looking for ways to make your process smoother and more efficient, the Iro-utsushi might just slot into your toolkit perfectly, like that one obscure drawing tool that always seems to come in handy when you least expect it.
I'm curious, do you have one of these? And if so, how was your experience with it? Did you regret buying one? And how do they compare to your other fountain pens or dip pens? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.
This is the honorable mentions for the best art book of 2025. Dude, what's this for? You know, this is so stupid. Let's talk about what you need to learn how to draw in order to be able to draw mechs and robots. I got this book for $2 at a bargain bin. Can you believe it?